Hi, I'm John.
This is Nick.
And I'm Andrew.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 12 of the J&A podcast. Hope everybody is doing well out there. We do have a pretty exciting episode to discuss this afternoon. Before we really dive into it, I'm going to hand it off to Andrew because he has a shout out he wants to give. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yes, I want to give a shout out to a friend of mine and also a co-worker. His name is Ryan. He's been showing this our channel a lot of love, spreading it out there on social media, giving nothing but positive feedback. And like honestly, like I can't say anything bad about this guy whatsoever. He's like one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, and he himself has a YouTube channel. And I want everybody that are listening right now to go check it out and like and subscribe to AstroDad89. It's got awesome videos out there. What he does is he does reacts to new music, basically, and freestyles of rap music and so on and so forth. Like I said, he's one of the nicest guys in the world, man. Just go out there and show him some love. Shout out to Ryan.
Thank you, my dude.
Thank you,
his channel
Ryan.
down in
Thank
the
you,
comment
Ryan.
or
Much
down
love.
in the description.
And
Much love, Ryan.
I also try to convince these guys for him being one of our first guests too, so that would be fun because he's a really cool guy to talk to.
Definitely have to think about that.
Oh yeah, maybe on our in review episodes because he's a loyal listener, man. He listens to almost every episode. He loves us.
Oh, thank you for your continued support.
Yeah, I don't know how he can stand listening to us three all the fucking time. It'd be on me.
Especially you. Have you heard yourself on this shit?
Yeah, I know, man. I got that one of those voices that just makes you want to fucking take the earplugs out of your ears and shove them down a fucking volcano. Hey, I was making up the joke as I was going along. I'm glad I got a laugh out of that because I thought it was terrible. But anyway,
I was just doing that to fill time.
I digress. On to topic. Yes, topic is about technology and the human effect or human experience or however the fuck you want to take it. I basically wanted to talk about technology with these three guys because honestly, this seems like a topic that all three of us been dancing around since we started this motherfucker. So I was like, screw it, just pick the topic. Each three of us kind of got our own way that we want to talk about this topic. I basically want to talk about where we've just come, and try to give you like a point of perspective to, especially to the, like you new listeners out there, because like I mean new listeners, but young listeners rather, people that are younger, 18, maybe even younger than that, or even your early 20s, like you basically are used to this technology. Me, John, and Nick are the unique kind of like generation to where we've seen what it was like before the technology took over, and we've seen it basically take over this planet, so I just kind of want to give some stuff out there, like the very first TV was invented in like 1927, right? And it was actually invented by a 21-year-old named Philo Taylor Farnsworth. Yes, that's right. Any Futurama fans out there are giggling right now. He would end. The weirdest thing about this guy, he was actually didn't even know anything about electricity until he was 14 years old. So the guy is like literally messing with electricity for about 7 years and invents the first fucking TV. Go figure. I haven't done anything with my life.
Me either.
Yeah. Hey, we played with the technology. That's what we've done. Another thing is something like the first ever VCR that's ever been made was made in 1956, and when it was made, it was the size of a fucking piano. Right?
DR. When is the last time you heard that before, or even seen one of those? It's been years for me.
All right, now for these kids out here that don't know what a VCR is, it's cassette tape. It's a cassette tape that you used to put into this machine, and that's how we used to watch our movies back in the day. It used to have little film on it, and sometimes the film would come out, and you'd have to take a pencil in there, and you like turn the pencil back around to fix it. And we used to go to Blockbuster. The Blockbuster kids, it was this place that you went to rent movies because we couldn't stream shit back in the day. Just so y'all know that shit.
If Netflix was a place, that would be Blockbuster.
Yes, exactly.
Why is this making me feel so old right now? Why?
Dude, You knew this was coming when we picked the topic, especially where we've come. And one more, just one more to make you feel just a little bit older. Now, the very first cell phone that was ever invented was invented in 1973 by Motorola, and it is credited to a guy named Martin Cooper. And that thing, it was basically the size of a car. No, I'm over exaggerating, but obviously it's one of those big briefcase things. And it was the very first cell phone to ever make a phone call. And
Hmm.
I picked those three things specifically because all of those three things are on your phone. All three of them. The first thing I invented in 1927. That means 93 years later, you have something that's literally the size of your hand that has all three of those things that was invented in the last 93 years. That's how far we've come in technology.
It's mind blowing.
Yeah, if that doesn't blow your mind, you're just a fucking idiot.
Hey, good start. Insult the listeners.
Yeah. Oh, hey. If they're listening to this, they're not idiots.
That's true.
Good callback, Andrew. But now when we come to talk about like what we've just seen in our generation, like I remember like the very first thing I've ever played was the Atari. And it's just like the little like Donkey Kong game where you're Mario going up the ladders, jumping over the barrels and climbing all over them. And now like I'm like literally playing Wildlands on my PC with Nick, and I could like it looks like we're playing a movie. You know what I mean? Like what we've seen in our lifetime is just absolutely mind-boggling.
It's crazy how far it's come, and I think people in our age group really we've kind of seen the most dramatic leap. Like, don't get me wrong, technology has always moved towards miniaturization and stuff like that. But we went from, having TVs and computers and stuff like that, weighed, oh God, probably at least, 150 pounds or so,
Yeah.
and VCRs and stuff like that, to being able to have the same amount of information or the same amount of video or whatever, go from something that's almost the size of a dinner plate to literally it fits in your pocket, and even smaller if you want to talk about like thumb drives and stuff. It's absolutely nuts.
It gets even crazier than that. You ever seen that picture of the world's first like gigabyte space, I'm sorry. And it's like, dude, it's like literally the size of a car, and it took cranes to lift.
Hmm.
Like 1 gigabyte, like you even know, like just to give like kids to understand what that actually is. Like I just downloaded a game last night that had 56 gigabytes. You know, that fit in my little computer over here. You know, it's insane.
Just real quick, do you guys remember the old dial-up noise that it used
Oh
to make?
God.
Oh my God, that's so funny hearing that nowadays,
Right?
They say you
Oh, wait.
can't or they say you can't hear a picture, but show me a 56K modem, and well, I'll give you my best impression. I'm not going to do it here. Like, I care about y'all's ears, but just saying.
That
Yeah.
screeching.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
no kidding. Let me hear you guys' opinion. What's the most dramatic change you think you've seen in your lifetime in terms of technology? Like, what's the thing that's blown you away the most?
John, you go first.
Pass the buck, huh? Uh,
I'll go
I'm
first if
genuine.
you want. I don't care.
Oh no, I got you. I got you. Although you might have to come up with a new answer after this, but smartphones.
Really?
Like, uh, okay, not only just smartphones, but the infrastructure it kind of takes to, use your smartphone in the way you expect nowadays. I mean,
Mhm.
as far as processors go, they're pretty powerful. They're more powerful than, most of the technology that came or before it, at least in terms of size and scale and stuff like that.
Okay.
Um, and also, that's it, just free access to the internet basically anywhere you are. And that, I think smartphones really have changed our life in regards when it comes to technology and stuff like that more dramatically, but also in much more subtle ways.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, I think we're going to end up coming back to that in this podcast
Mm,
because you're absolutely right. I think cell phones is one of the ones that just came out of nowhere. I don't think anybody's seen that coming when it came to the matter of cell phones.
yeah.
Oh, what about you, Nick?
I'm doing my segment, and what way I wanted to lean towards this was kind of think of good and bad impacts on technology. I mean, and some that are kind of both good and bad. One of the things, based on your question, and one of the things I have on my list is science and healthcare. I guess that's
Mm,
two of the things, but those are things that are very important, and those have taken a very dramatic leap forward because of technology, well, far more than they used to back in the whatever day, 40s, 30s, whatever you want to say, you know.
right.
So I think if you want to, talk specifically about what's, the most important or the most intriguing thing about technology that is kind of far advanced, I would have to say either healthcare or science in general, because without advancing those two things, we would never be where we're at nowadays.
Right.
Yeah,
We'd be stuck in
definitely.
a stone age.
I I could get that. I could get that. It kind of sounds like you had to change your answer up after John said cell phone. I'm
I
joking.
honestly did not. Those were my two answers either way.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Well, the reason why I asked you to that is because I wanted to talk about where it's going. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
seeing what we've seen in our lifetime. Like, I try to imagine and extrapolate where it's going to go. What are we going to see 20 years? What are we going to see when my nephew is my age? You know what I mean? What is he? I mean, is he going to be playing video games like Ready Player One, where he's just putting on goggles and he's jumping into a world doing whatever game like that? Like, or like what the future is actually going to be like because of how much has already changed from the technology we just described in the past, like whatever 10, 15 minutes here, you know?
mm,
Um, one of the biggest things I really do think this is going to change the world, and it is going to be coming out soon in the next 5 years, is Elon Musk's Neuralink. Um, he recently was on the Joe Rogan Experience, and he talked about it in a little bit of depth, but not really. Like he's still kind of like hush hush about what can it really do. But there is certain things he was giving out about it, what it's going to be able to do. And one of the things he's saying that it's going to be able to do is that it's going to be able to expand your memory capacity, so people are not only going to be able to remember better, but the one of the thing he said that like it like intrigued me, but at the same time, it like scared me at this. You know, I mean, I was like, it sounds intriguing, but at the same time, it sounds fucking scary. And he was saying that people are going to be able to communicate without talking anymore. He's like,
yeah.
they're just they're basically just going to exchange information back and forth just by looking at each other and thinking.
Hmm.
That's fucking insane. That's just utterly insane. So is language going to be like, are we 20, 30 years from now, we're going to look back as language as like old technology? Like, I can't believe people are speaking English still, you know? Like, that is insane, dude.
Honestly, I don't think so. There's always appreciation for older, or let's just accept the fact that, language is around for a reason, but like it's one of those things like a lot of old school stuff I think never really goes away. Like, you can still find people who do blacksmithing to this day with all the modern or metalworking technology we have. I don't think uh the spoken or the written language is going anywhere time soon.
I don't mean it like that, but I meant it as like there's still people that go to Renaissance or there's still people that like to live in those kind of like old styles. I mean, you could even go to Alaska where people are living out there in cabin woods. I'm
Mm,
not saying that it's going to become extinct. I'm saying that we're going to look at it like how we look at it. Hey, can you believe that guy's out there? He doesn't even have a TV in his house. Like, how weird is that? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's how we're going to look at it.
hmm.
I
You
think it's
know?
got its pros and cons, and the Neuralink, and I don't know much about it. I did see the episode with Joe Rogan and Elon Musk. And I will have to say, it sounds like there's more risk than reward on that. Although it does sound intriguing and it does sound freaking cool to some degree, but it sounds like that could get a little messy if you really break it down, man. I mean, you're talking about implanting I can't remember how big he said it was. It was like a quarter of an inch, if I'm not mistaken.
Smaller
But
than that.
yeah, I mean, so he's talking about placing it into your brain. Now, I'm not saying that it's,
Yeah.
there's technology that won't be able to do that precisely and effectively. But what I am saying is I think there's a lot more risk than reward on that. That's just my opinion, honestly.
Mm.
There always is when it comes to the new technology. That's always going to happen. It's just like the same thing with cell phones. In the 80s, you had that big box cell phone that then, like, it was somebody's carrying it around. Not a lot of people had them. In the 90s, they became smaller with the Motorola's and everything, and it became a little bit more popular. By 2015, everybody's got one. I think when it comes to those Neuralink, it's going to be the same exact thing. I think at first, like, there's only going to be a few people that have them, but I think by the time that we get in our 50s or 60s, it's going to be a standard thing.
I would agree to that. However, you're literally drilling into someone's skull and implanting something in their brain. That's a little different than creating a device that you use with your hand. Again, my opinion.
Hey, I could talk to somebody from 1960 and I'd be like, hey, I could pull out this device and I could watch any movie I want at any given time. And to them, that'd be witchcraft. You know what I mean? Like, don't know where technology is just booming, man. And it doesn't seem to, you think that we would hit this like cap or this limit where it would slow down or something like that, but it's not. It just keeps going faster and faster and faster. And I even get scared of, like, what if we invent AI? Like, what if we actually invent artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence, people don't know, they could learn everything in human history, and, like, I think it's like a matter of a day. Maybe John could correct me. I think John knows more about this than I do, but it would take them like a day or two to learn everything there is to know about human history. That's insane. You know what I mean? Like, if we create AI, like, if they didn't take us over, they could literally get us to Jupiter by from a year from now.
Mm. I don't think we're quite there with AI yet. Like, AI is good at really sorting through data and stuff like that and giving um, more deterministic results. And I'm certain, if we put enough on the project, or if we manage to advance AI technology, that would be something that we'd really or be focusing on. But by the same token, like, the
Mhm.
reason AI isn't great right now is because we still need a human to add context. AIs are terrible at context. So until we can
Right.
really start doing something about that I mm, I'm not going to
Yeah.
say it couldn't happen, but at the same time, I'm not holding my breath. And there was something actually that you brought up that I thought was or worth mentioning. Um, you said that you're surprised we haven't hit any kind of wall or anything like that, and the fact is that we're actually kind of rapidly running up against one, and that is it's called Moore's law. And what that is it's not a law per se, but it's the fact that every couple of years the amount of transistors on an integrated circuit doubles every 2 years.
Uh-huh.
And that was true for God knows how long, but we're actually getting to the point where we can't make transistors small enough or be able to pack them in tight enough because at that size, electrons stop doing what you want them to do in a certain degree.
Huh.
Which,
That's crazy.
if any of you guys or any of the listeners are into, computer science and stuff like that, that's kind of why quantum computing is going to be such a big deal if we can, really nail that down, is because we're not going to be limited by that. And in fact, that will be the next explosion of technology, I would say.
Hmm.
From
I
my
did not.
understanding,
Go ahead, Nick.
From my understanding, and I'm going to bring back a point that Andrew was making in regards to artificial intelligence getting us to Jupiter or something of that, dramatic leap there. I
Mhm.
don't think you can really cross anything off the list when it comes to technology. When it comes to technology, I'm like, almost to the understanding that anything is possible. I mean, from what I've read, heard, and listened, especially from you, John, because you've taught me a little bit about artificial intelligence and the difference between automation and artificial intelligence. The sky's the limit when it comes to it. So it's definitely not out of the question that, Andrew, you are correct. Would they be able to get us to Jupiter? Would they even be able to get us further than that? I believe that's just a stepping stone. I believe that's just the tip of the iceberg type thing. We could go far and beyond that. You know what I mean? I just think there's really no limit to how far technology can really go. And again, that's a good and a bad thing.
Yeah, it is. Even this Neuralink that that I was talking about with Elon Musk. One of the things he's saying that you can do with it is that you can control any wireless device. So you'll have, say, if you have that 5 years from now, you get that Neuralink, you'll be able to go up to your Tesla, open up your door, close it, start it, and have it drive itself, all by thinking, and that's within 5 years. That is fucking insane. If I see that, I am 100% belief of the simulation theory. I don't care. I'm like all in. Like, this is all a simulation. Once I see that, I'm done. Like, I'm like, I'm done, dude. We're in a simulation. Like, we got an orange president. You people controlling cars with their minds. I'm done. This is a simulation. It's crazy.
Hey, truth is often stranger than fiction.
That's an understatement of the 2020. Crazy,
Amen to that, man. Amen to that.
Yeah, that's so. It, like I said, man, it just blows my mind to think about where it's going, and like even what we talked about, what's going to happen in the next 5 years with the Neuralink and everything. Oh, that's just like the tip of the iceberg, because there's a bunch of people out there doing a bunch of things. You even got what is that CRISPR or whatever, people that are working on DNA. Yeah, people that are working on DNA, man. Like, they're saying that within 20 years everybody's going to be looking like fucking Chris Hemsworth or like The Rock and shit like that, just because they can alter your DNA. Like, that's insane, man.
There's more to it than that, but we won't get into that just yet. But I wanted to circle back around a little bit, and Nick, you brought up something that I find really interesting, and that's if you look at the progression of medical technology, you can really see the ethos of first do no harm being applied to that. Like something that they used to have to be or to crack your chest open and take out your sections of your rib cage and shit. Now they're just going through a vein in your leg and stuff like that. Like it's really progressed, following the mentality of let us do as little harm as we have to in order to help heal and fix people. And yeah, that's just incredible, I think.
Yeah, it's amazing what they've done. It's definitely amazing what they've done with the healthcare and how they diagnose and the different type of technology they have to diagnose you, and is science as well, which is a big one, and you can kind of contribute that to the military as well. I mean, there's strategies and the way people train for the military and things like that. It's just there's so many different categories. Healthcare is a really good example because you definitely see the progression, like you were saying, but there's so many different categories have like skyrocketed ever since technology really started taking off over time. It's an amazing thing. It really is. And a lot of it is really good, especially in those kind of categories. And and then there's quite a few bad things. I mean, when you get into physical and mental health aspects, to people sitting on a computer all day long and not going outside and socializing and making friends, and there's a lot of different categories that makes it a good thing and a bad thing, and it's kind of hard to dismiss it, or it's kind of not kind of hard to not acknowledge it, because it is a booming thing, and it does kind of help you with everyday life, in other words.
Yeah, I get that. That's a very good point, Nick, because like the pros of it is that you pretty much got all the information you could ever. You have more information in the palm of your hand than anybody in human history. You know, and the bad thing about it is you're not using it to learn. You're using it to judge people on Facebook or watch your stupid cat videos or
Hey, I
see
like my
what
cat videos.
see what like Superman would look like in his underwear for eating an ice cream cone or just some stupid shit like that.
Hmm.
Which brings me to a good and bad impact that technology has on society, and that part of that is kind of learning and actual experience. I mean, think of it nowadays. If you, I mean, I am not a mechanically inclined guy. Okay, I've never been really that good with my hands. I have literally trained my carburetors in my motorcycle by watching a YouTube video. Okay,
Uh,
think of
yeah,
that. I mean, back then, before all that crap came out, you had to, I mean, it took blood, sweat, and tears to learn how to do stuff like that. I mean, you either had to know someone to show you, you had to figure it out yourself. I mean, seriously, figure it out yourself, not flip on YouTube, punch in a couple different words and say, oh, I can do this myself right now and just watch the video and go along with them. So
yep,
it's come such a far way, and it's a good thing that you can see that information very quickly because you can get things done at a quicker rate. But it's a
right.
bad thing, as in you're not experiencing that. So is it easy for you to go do it again without that video? And the answer
Uh,
is no, because you don't have that experience of doing it over and beyond literally just play by play with a YouTube video. Just
right.
different. You know what I mean? It's not the way people learned back in the day. And it's, nowadays it's so easy to just to figure something out. I mean, even in school, you had to read books. You had to, I mean, you didn't have a computer to where you can just, hey, let me know the answer to this question. I mean, you had to go to the library. You had to buy the book. You had to go to a friend that had the book. I mean, you had to talk to the teacher in detail. Everything in regards to school, especially, you didn't have the luxury of just let me flip open my laptop or my phone and ask Google, which Google can
Um,
be misdirecting as well, by the way.
Mm.
Everybody knows Google will give you 10 different type of answers. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
uh,
that's misleading itself. But the fact of the matter is an experience in that blood, sweat, and tears that you get from actually accomplishing that when you learn yourself. You're taking that completely off the table by just watching a YouTube video or just Googling something really quick and getting the answer to that. It's just not that same accomplishment as it would be for you to figure it out on your own the way they used to be able to do that.
Well, I
yeah,
would
I get that.
I'd actually like to kind of posit something that or to that because more or less you're making it or what I take issue with when it comes to that argument is okay, you learned how to do or you looked it up, changing your carburetor on your motorcycle once. Now, if you kept having to do that, if that was your job or something like that, at some point you're not going to need the YouTube video. And when it comes to any kind of complex system, you do need a certain amount of instruction. Uh, whether or not that comes from YouTube or, if talking to your buddy that knows, a thing or two about turning a wrench, I don't see a great difference there. Like, I don't see how having access to the information like that really diminishes the accomplishment.
I think he means is it's less hands-on. And that could be a good or bad thing. It could be a good thing for somebody that learns better that way. Some people could watch YouTube and like they could learn it better that way, just watching it that way, watching it on YouTube. But some people couldn't. Some people are different learners. I mean, one of the things I learned when I first went to college is like people have different technical learning skills and different way to learn. And I think he really means is that if you're not sitting there doing it hands on with it in person and like reading it through books, you're not really soaking it in as much as somebody just telling you what to do. You know what I mean? Like if somebody's like if on YouTube saying, "Okay, unscrew this and put it there, then put that there," and you just follow a direction, you did it, but you have no full grasp of what you really did. You know what I mean? As
I'll break this
opposed
down for
to
you really quick. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'll break this down for you really quick. It's equivalent from me teaching you how to do math than me telling you how to do the math. So you're doing a test right now, and I'm
Mm.
just telling you, 2 + 2 is 4, 5 + 5 is 10, 10 + 10 is 20. Instead of me just telling you those answers, I'm telling you how to get to that answer, or I'm going to show you how to get to that answer. That's that experience you can take away from that moment or those moments in general. When you're doing it play by play, it's just not the same. And maybe that's just me, in my opinion. I'm a hands-on type of guy. It's it's hard for me just to look at something, and YouTube makes it easy because you can just pause it and just unscrew the screw. So that might have been a bad analogy or a bad example, but there's many things that applies to, because in this day and age, people aren't willing, and maybe I'm a victim of this too, by the way. I'm not saying I'm any different, but people aren't really willing to actually put the work in to learn something over and beyond asking Google or asking YouTube how to do that. You know what I mean? Just a little different.
I get what you're saying. I can. I mean, I agree with you on that. I do. But at the same time, like, I think the technology is just a tool, just like everything else is. And sometimes people know how to use it good. Sometimes people know how to use it bad. You know what I mean? I mean, you could take a hammer, like when you're building a house, and the hammer could be the best tool you have, but at the same time, the hammer could take a life. It's just a tool, you know?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to fundamentally disagree with you, Nick. That said, I don't think changing where the instruction comes from changes any meaning or anything like that in terms of, you doing something. Because that's it. I've looked up how to do things on YouTube and stuff like that, and it wasn't like having step-by-step instructions or having basically, the phone telling me what to or tell me what to do didn't diminish the fact of, I actually managed to put something back together or fix something and, didn't blow up or anything. uh that's it. Just there was accomplishment in just the execution of it in itself.
Well, maybe not for you,
That's the
Tom, but for
equivalent.
other people out there, it could be like that. You know, everybody's different, and
Hold on, it's
everybody.
equivalent. Here's the equivalence. I'll throw this as an example out there. It's a difference between you socializing, right, on Discord, or socializing on some kind of social media platform, than you actually going to socialize with human beings, having a human connection. One is not the same. Right? It's just not the same. It could be contributed to the same, such as you're still talking to people, you're still having some kind of interaction, but you're not having that hands-on experience, face-to-face, knowing the emotion, seeing the facial expressions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It is, to me, again, I might be, over exaggerating it a little bit, because obviously to me it works that way. But again, it does contribute to some kind of loss of, whether it be experience or whether it be willingness to learn, willingness to want to do that type of thing. I mean, you think of it now. I mean, kids. I use school as an example because this is just the way it is in school. You, you get sent home with homework, right? You really sit there and figure out the math equation. These kids go on their phone and say, what's 12, whatever, divided by this, and they get the answer, they write it down, they're done. It wasn't this. It's not the same as them actually doing the equation that they're taught in class. It's just not the same anymore. It's so easy to, and it's human nature, by the way, to take the easy way out of it. Again, I'm a victim of that. Not saying I'm any different, but saying that you taking the time and learning that craft, or having that hands-on experience, maybe not just one time, I'm talking about over a period of time, is 10 times different and more beneficial to you as a human being than you watching a YouTube video.
One thing I
That's just,
definitely
I guess, my opinion.
Honestly, Nick, I think you kind of have two different arguments going on here that you're not really consolidating, I guess, because like, I guess just to use that example, okay, say I'm, changing the carburetor on a bike. Okay, if I do it once and I do it on YouTube, or, using YouTube as a source of instruction, that's one thing. But if it's something that I'm going to end up having to do multiple times for whatever reason, eventually I'm not going to need that YouTube video. I'm just going to know, okay, turn this, unscrew that, pop this in, pop that out. Like, and that's why I say you've got two different arguments going on, because you're trying to use something that you would only have to do really like one time, or something that you may not be even really interested in doing but are doing it out of necessity, and trying to say, that changes everything. And yeah.
Well, I honestly think that you're both right. I think it just differs between people. Each person is different. You know what I mean? I think that's the problem with a lot of things that go on in school, is that they teach each kid the same, when each kid shouldn't be taught the same, because each kid doesn't learn the same. I honestly think you're both right, and the truth is right in the middle between what you guys are talking about.
Mm.
That's my honest opinion. One thing I do want to bring up is what Nick was talking about. Nick, what you were talking about social media, that was pretty spot on because that is a one negative effect that the technology does have on us is social media. I mean, the positive effect, of course, is that we're able to share information instantaneously out of thin air, basically, to each other. But at the same time, they can be really disconnects us. You know, I mean, we're human beings. We have evolved to see each other. You know what I mean? If I'm sitting there and I'm talking to you, I don't say hurtful things because I get hurtful reactions out of you, and it makes me feel bad. On social media, you don't get those reactions. You don't see jack shit. You just see lines. You just see words and numbers. That's all you see. I think that's the reason why you have a high number of trolls of people who are just trying to say shitty things to make us to get a reaction out of somebody. You know, I think that's one of the things that social media really does is it disconnects us like a motherfucker.
Uh, I argue for and against social media. Excuse me. This was actually, I guess, kind of the focus of what I wanted to bring to this topic, and I'm just gonna throw this out there right now. Universally,
Well,
me,
throw it easily, man. Throw it
huh?
easily. Don't hit us.
Nope, y'all are getting hit right in the bonds. But social media in general is pretty garbage. Like it has led to higher rates of depression, higher rates of suicide,
Mhm.
and it's kind of almost metamorphized into this second life that you have to curate and maintain, and not even discussing, issues of presenting yourself falsely online or stuff like that. Uh, it's a world without names or faces, and really that's it. That I think that helps bring out some of the worst in human nature.
Yeah.
Um, but to, I guess, kind of swing it around again, there's also the good aspect of it. Like, as far as technology and just mental health, uh, people who might be not neurotypical or aneurotypical, or, have extreme shyness or anything like that, it does give them an avenue to reach out and at least get some form of, human contact in a way that they can deal with and is safe. Uh,
Yeah.
and I would be remiss to or to not bring that up, that as much potential for harm there's a lot of potential for good. I mean, let's face it, social media is basically how we keep in contact nowadays, and I'll just leave that there.
Well, that and video games
Yeah, but, well, of course.
and podcasts.
Watch
Podcasts ain't got
Nerdborn.
jack shit to do with social media.
Well, I mean, let's face it, we blast all of our stuff all over social media, so
I gotta get people to listen to my ass somehow.
If I had to say something, if I had to elaborate on what you were saying, yes, there is the possibility and the potential of good on social media, but it's just over time, it's just grown to a lot of negative. You see a
Mm,
lot more negative on social media, in my opinion, and maybe I'm talking to the wrong people and have the wrong friends list on mine, but I see a lot more negative on my news feed than positive. It's just the way it is, and shouldn't be that way because it is a good way to communicate with people, like, across the country, across the world, and keep in contact with family and friends from long ago. So there is, yes, that potential of good intentions there and good aspects to it. But I mean, there's a reason why people don't even watch the news anymore. The news used to be, okay, let's go, what's going on in my state or my area, right? Well, now it's like, oh, the murder happened here. It's so negative. It just brings you down more than it actually lifts you up. You know what I mean? So there is a good potential there. There is, good positive vibes on it at some point. I mean, there's different groups you can go on to, such as like positivity thoughts and different groups like that. But when it comes to people sharing their, airing their dirty laundry on social media, it's nothing but, whether it be, political corruption, or whether it be my boyfriend cheated on me, or it's a lot of negative I see on social media any more than it is actually more positive.
mm,
Well, there's
mm,
a lot of human psychology into that. That's looking for attention. That's just the it's just the people who they generally are, 90% of the time you jump on one of my social media pages, you get one or two things, something I think people need to hear or something to make you laugh, and that's about it. Like I generally just try to like divert away from all arguments and everything like that. Generally I'll make one or two comments and I'll just leave it alone after that. I mean, my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram comments not going to change the way you think. It's just not.
Mm.
I'll say my little bit. I hope you kind of opens your eyes a bit, or vice versa. And beyond that, I just move on. Um, I think it should just be used to like keep in touch with family and friends and to lighten up your day.
Mm.
A lot of things I follow on social media are just things that just make me laugh. Like shout out to the Secret Nerd Base. That's like one of my favorite pages on Facebook, man. Y'all should follow that page. I love that page. They crack me the fuck up. I don't think I could live without their memes anymore. Like that's how funny I find their memes. They're just hilarious. It's just pure genius.
Mm.
And to me, that's social media. But for somebody else, it's like what you're saying, Nick. Like, oh, my boyfriend, they were always putting their dirty laundry out there trying to get attention. And to them, it's like it's almost like it's a crack pipe or or the heroin needle. Like they got to get that injection going for that day. They got to get that post up. They got to get the reactions and everything, man. Like, that's fucked. That's sad, man. I couldn't imagine living life like that. That would suck.
Well, it's
Mhm.
it's worth pointing out too, and this is something that has been confirmed by psychologists and stuff like that. The human brain, just by nature, is actually something a bit of a negative Nancy, really. Like, um, as humans evolving to have problem solving skills or stuff like that, or to see something that needs to be fixed and want to fix it or need to fix it, that's hardwired into us. And as far as airing dirty laundry and stuff like that, I do think that's a little bit a part of it. Like, more often than not, you have to actively try and think about the positive things or be positive, because otherwise that's it. Just the human brain is hardwired to go, okay, this ain't right, this ain't right, this ain't right. Let's
Yeah.
do something about that.
It's like how we basically evolved.
Mm,
It's also the same thing. The reason why we're on there constantly trying to get accepted is because we've evolved in tribes. If
mm,
generally for hundreds of thousands of years, if we weren't accepted in a tribe and were sent on our own, we were likely to die.
yeah.
We were our better chance of survival was with the tribe. So that's probably the reason why we're hardwired to have want acceptance. That's the reason why I'm putting my podcast on all the social media. I want you guys to accept me. I couldn't
Hello.
help myself with that one. This won't be a therapy session. I swear to God. I swear to God.
Hello, the desperate cry for attention into the empty void that is the internet.
We're gonna get a bunch. I'm gonna get a bunch of like inbox messages. If you ever need somebody to talk to, I'm here. So,
So,
yeah. What else about technology, Nick? Do you think has had like a positive and negative, but beyond just social media? Like, what else you got out there?
um, another good effect I'll say is transportation.
Mm,
Good for environment. It's gotten well more advanced as in you can get to your destination a lot faster. It's easier than the old day cars and riding a horse and buggy and all that crap that came with it. So transportation has come a long way, even though of course environmentally it's still kind of up in the air about how to make it a little bit better, and that's coming to light. I mean, you got the new Teslas, you got smart cars, you have things are coming out nowadays with the technology that are making the environment a lot better. But if you go back to like the 50s and the 60s, those Fords and those older cars, those things put out a lot of just bad stuff for the environment and
mm,
all that
Carbon
crap that
emissions.
went out to. So if you think about it, transportation nowadays has actually helped the environment a lot more than it did back in the day, and it's doing nothing but progressing moving forward as well. And I wouldn't doubt in my mind that eventually in the next probably 20, 30, 40 years, you won't see a gas powered car on the road anymore. Maybe not, maybe, but it's a good possibility you won't.
That I'm actually kind of taken off surprised by, Nick. I didn't think that one would be popping up, but I couldn't agree more. Yeah, technology. Technology has like changed the way we've traveled just so drastically. I mean, never before in human history could you just be like, do you know what? I feel like going to see Italy and be there within a day or two. You know, that's like the never before. I mean, like, uh, we obviously fucked this planet up in the process. like that. That's the obvious negative aspect of it. Putting all the carbon emission out there, like the effects of the planet have yet to be seen. But I agree with you on the Tesla. I really hope that's like the future of transportation, especially with the He's got. Doesn't he coming out with like a fast transport kind of like train, kind of like what Japan has or something like that? I think I've heard something about that.
No idea. Although I do want to take a moment
Oh,
and just specify real
Hyperloop.
quick. Uh,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
it's not like, don't get me wrong, cars and or the automotive industry in general has contributed to climate change and stuff like that. But a lot of that has to do with industrial complexes. Power plants are actually a big culprit when it comes to that. I just wanted to throw that out there. It's not just cars. Granted, that's getting better, and it's not that the amount of cars on the road isn't a problem, uh, but there's more to it than that.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for correcting me on that. And what I was talking about is Elon Musk. It's called the Hyperloop, and Hyperloop is a sealed tube, a system of tubes with the low air pressure, which a pod that travels substantially free of air resistance or friction.
Hmm.
So basically, you're gonna be traveling through state to state in a matter of like hours. Yeah, that's the future.
Futurama
Uh,
tubes.
Yes. Second Futurama for reference for today, man.
We're hitting a quota.
Good news, everyone.
And by the way, I don't, in the near future here, I would assume, and again, I'm just kind of giving my opinion on this. I would assume that there will be a lot more companies coming out with, cars like Tesla. Maybe not exactly Tesla, but there will be many companies coming out with cars just like that, just like Ford and Chevy, GM, and all them came out, and kind of snowball effect from there. It's only a matter of time before cars like Tesla have the same kind of snowball effect. It'll just be one after another, and eventually it'll be non-existent for us to have gas running vehicles. You know what I mean? Again, based on what I've seen in the progression of Teslas, I mean, you can get Teslas now for pretty cheap. When they first come out, you couldn't get a Tesla for under 100 grand or something like that. Now you can get a stock one, like flat stock, for like 40 grand. So
Yeah.
it's it's becoming more and more in demand, and the more and more it comes in demand, the more and more people will buy it, and it's a better time for that's all you really see out there. Or it's like that, I should say.
Elon gonna change the world, man.
It
There
already
is
has.
He's actually one of my personal heroes.
there is one thing I'd like to point out with that. Like, I don't think we're going to get off of the petroleum titty anytime soon, because one problem when it comes to electric cars and stuff like that is you can't make uh, electric heavy equipment, for lack of a better term. Like, you're not going to see an electric powered dump truck, or you're not going to see an electric powered excavator or anything like that. There are fundamental issues when it comes to electric power to anything that really need to be addressed. So that's it. I don't think we're going to, I don't see us getting completely off the petroleum titty anytime soon.
He said petroleum.
I like the way he puts that, petroleum titty. That's actually well put. That's actually well put, though, John. Again, I was just kind of throwing my opinion, but that sounds about at 1,000% accurate, man. I mean, it might be a long time, but again, with the technology and the way it's advancing and the way it's growing, I would definitely wouldn't put it past it. Eventually, I would
only,
assume that they would come up with some kind of solution for that.
only thing I heard out of all of that was titty.
Congratulations.
I can't help myself.
What about
Oh,
you, though, Andrew? Give me some. What do you think that have positive, good effects from technology and society? What do you think? What's a category that you can come up with?
I think any aspect of technology is just like anything else, man. It's got positive and negatives. Like it does not matter what it is. There's a positive and negative effect to it.
Mm,
I could like water. We need water to live. We need water to bathe so we don't smell like cavemen. But too much of the shit will kill us. Like there's positive, there's negative. There's always a yin and yang. It's always going to be like that. Um, Obviously for me, in case any of these listeners don't know, one of the positive things that I fucking love is video games.
yeah.
Yeah. Hey man, I love the time that I live in, and I thank God that I was born in the generation that I was born in, because I love my video games and I love all my comic book characters I get to see come to life on the big screen. I love all that. The one negative aspect there is to that, though, that I think is a huge one that we're really not paying attention to when it comes to children, is I think it's an imagination killer. I think with like when me, you, and John were kids, like don't get me wrong, we played video games and stuff like that, but we were always constantly playing outside. We were always constantly using our imagination. I mean, one day would be like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with sticks hitting each other, and the next thing we know, we were Power Ranger. We were using our imagination. And I think imagination is very fundamental to when it comes to intelligence. I don't think a person can be intelligent without imagination. And I think one of the things that technology is doing to these kids that are constantly on their phones or constantly on the tablets, I think it's killing their imagination. I don't think that it's really they're always like mind dead, brain dead. They're not using their brain. They're just sitting there watching what's on. It's like when you watch TV. You like to watch TV when you come home from work to relax and unwind. The reason why you like to do it is because your brain goes. You're not thinking. You're just kind of like paying attention to what's on the screen. I think that's like one of the biggest things when it comes to biggest negative thing when it comes to technology that doesn't get spoken about. And I think that could come to bite us in the asses in the future.
I'd actually like to kind of not necessarily. I don't know what I want to do with it, but so I'm just gonna roll with it. Well, that's it. You brought up imagination, and we did that as part of just entertaining ourselves. And the simple fact is that that's it. Entertainment now is just so readily accessible, and there's a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, it's allowed some things to flourish, but at the same time, uh, it's also really kind of attaching us too much to technology, I think, because that's it. You're sitting bored at the doctor's office, or you're on lunch break, or what the fuck ever. What do? You pull out your phone, you start fucking around with it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I definitely agree that there's major repercussions that's going to come from that, and I mean we're
Mhm.
already seeing it now. Like I believe it was Dana Carvey. He was he made a joke about this kind of particular topic, but he said he was sitting in a mall and just looking around, and he sees this group of girls, and they're all hunched over their phones, and they're all giggling and laughing, and then one of them actually just pops up and says, "I know," like a coven of cyber witches.
Huh.
Yeah, he tells that joke better, but definitely. I don't know if it would be necessarily an imagination killer, um, but I think, or rather, I think the reason it might be an imagination killer is because that's it. Instead of, you know, coming up with something to entertain yourself in life's boring moments, you just pull out your phone or do whatever. Because there are franchises right now that part of my enjoyment of them is just sitting there and thinking about them. I mean, who'd have guessed? I'm a critic, but um, I don't think technology. I don't know where I'm going with this now, but yeah, I don't think, or I think such prominent access to entertainment like that now does have a deleterious effect on the imagination, and yeah, we kind of need that.
Yeah, we definitely do. What do you think about that, Nick?
um, Imagination thing, I definitely agree with what you're saying, Andrew, because it kind of does stall that kind of production, in my opinion. And you can kind of contribute that a little bit. And, I'm even, a portrayer of this as well, contribute that to parenting. I mean,
Mm,
if you're talking about young kids, they're going to get away with everything they can. That's just human nature for a kid. So if a parent's letting the kid do nothing but sit on their cell phone or computer or video game, is it the kid's fault? Yes and no, but you can contribute that to the parents as well, because it's very easy as a parent when you want alone time, when you want some kind of just like leave me alone separation because you just got off of work, you had a hard day, you're frustrated, you're annoyed, you got a lot of things to do at home or whatever the case may be. It's fairly easy to say, why don't you just go on your tablet or your computer, watch a video or play your game, and then I'll call you for dinner, or whatever the case may be. It's fairly easy for parents nowadays to do that, to kind of help with that process. You know what I mean? When you talk about imagination for children, well, children have imagination as soon as they come out of the womb, in my opinion. I mean, it's just it's a child thing. I mean, children are going to create things in their mind. I mean, my son, he's 7 years old. The guy, he's funny as hell. He talks about going to ponds and catching fish, and he's talking about catching 30-pound bass, which that doesn't exist. But he has an imagination by himself without actually forcing that upon him. When you start giving technology and phones, computers, and tablets and video games, if you just keep feeding it into them because they like to do it all the time, it's not really the kid's fault. It's more the parents' fault that's just kind of pushing that and forcing that upon them. There's my opinion.
I didn't mean to make it sound like it's the kid's fault, because I personally don't think that it is. The kids don't know and understand the repercussions of it. They don't know. They should be taught that. I don't think it's really anybody's fault. I just think it's like one of those things that just kind of happens.
Yeah.
When it comes to the technology, it's just one of those things that we didn't see coming. Hopefully we learn to combat it. Like one of the things, like John was saying, not only just the imagination, but like back in the day, if you're sitting at the doctor's office and you didn't have a phone, you would think, and you would think in depth about things. And when you think in depth about things, you realize things you did not realize before. Now that you have your phones, you don't get those in depth. Uh, you don't think in depth like that. You're just like you're just feeding through, scrolling through your feed. You're not really thinking about things in depth. I think that's the reason why you get so many people that are why you have so much outrage, so much extremists on either side of the left or right of the political spectrum. I think that's the reason why they're so extreme, because they're always so caught up in the next thing that's happening, and they're not really thinking about these things in depth. The very reason why they're probably not thinking, well, at least that's just a theory, man, is because they have time to think.
Mm.
I just think that's like one of the negative aspects to technology that doesn't get talked about enough, because like it seems to become like a bigger and bigger problem. I didn't mean to sound like coming off as like a necessarily an imagination killer. I just meant to say like it's just not making us think enough. Maybe Elon Musk will fix that with the Neuralink, and the next thing you know, this will all be like just a stupid conversation people listen to 20 years from now. Be like, listen to this dumbass. He thought people would get dumb.
Suck his cock more.
Yeah.
Well, let me elaborate on something you guys said about the doctors visiting a doctor, and just while you're waiting, you flip your phone out. I go to the doctors every once in a while with my son, or with my other kids here, and it's back when you were a kid, when you went to the doctor's office, they had a little playroom. Blocks. You played with the little thing that you can make go around in a loop, or and I mean, you played with the toys that they provided, right?
All right.
I don't see too many kids nowadays playing with them. They're on their phones. I mean, you got, my son, by the way, does not have a cell phone, everybody. I don't really agree with that by any means. But you see kids as young as 6, 7 years old and up that have cell phones nowadays, or have tablets, which my son has a tablet as well. But the point is it does take away from somewhat of progression for, imagination and playing and just kind of being a normal kid from our experience as being children. And again, you can chalk that up to just a new generation. I'm sure you could. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's all bad or it's all good, but in the same sense is a doctor's office. Next time you're at a doctor's office, you can see in that playroom how many kids are in there actually playing. You have 1 or 2 year old in there rolling around. A kid 5 or 6 years or older, you're probably not going to see in there too much more. And that's just my experience, because I go, not all the time, but I go frequently, once every 3, 4, 5 months, whatever, to the doctors for my son or one of the other kids. And don't see many of them in playing with the toys or blocks or anything like that no more. I really don't.
I would like to circle around to something that you mentioned, that it's you have a hard day at work, or the parenting aspect, I guess. Um, and I guess really this isn't connected to the topic of technology and its effect on humans on the whole, but maybe it could be also anyway. My point is I think there's also, or that's resultant more of a bigger systemic problem, because that's it. You do here in America, that's it. You do have to work 60, 70 hours a week, and uh, like that doesn't leave a lot of time for anything else. And I imagine that has. I don't have kids myself, but I imagine that has to make parenting an absolute nightmare. Not only in that aspect, but in the aspect of as a parent, you are still a normal person. Like that's it. You need time to yourself. You need time, to decompress and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Uh, so end capitalism. All right, that was my bit.
yeah. Hey, man. That's definitely a podcast episode because it's a job to preach it. For real, man. Like I could not agree more. Back in the day, dude, the dad could work 40 hours a week, come home and play with the kids a little bit. The mom could stay at home and watch the kids all the time. Now both parents got to work.
Mm,
And not working 40-hour weeks. Both parents are working 60, 70-hour weeks.
Yeah, yeah,
So
you
that's
definitely
definitely a
you
preaching
definitely hit
topic.
it on the nail there, John. You definitely hit it on the nail there. I mean, it's
Like, for
long
real,
gone
man.
the days as a parent or one or even two even have one job anymore. I work 40 hours. I mean, make any sort of decent living, you either single with no kids or both parents have to work. It's a
Right.
I wouldn't be. That's my mom's heart, man. She raised me and Andrew pretty much by herself for the majority of our life, and she worked two jobs. I mean, she had to play both roles, and it let me just say from what I've seen and heard, it's definitely when you say nightmare, it's definitely a task that is not easily done by an average person. It takes patience, it takes dedication, it takes a lot to be able to do that on your own, especially nowadays. And it's
Yeah.
gotten nothing but worse nowadays because of the fact that you do have to work so many hours, you do have to provide and all that. So when you get home, you're tired, man. You'd rather send them to the TV or video game to kind of just take a breather for yourself, take a bath, take a shower, read a book or whatever your thing is. And yeah, you definitely hit it on the nail there, man. You definitely can contribute that to both parents or one or the other have to work so many more hours nowadays than they used to. Definitely.
mm,
Yeah. Well, it could even start getting worse and worse too, man. Because one thing that we haven't brought up yet is automation. Like automation's the thing that it's I think it's going to take over this country, and I think it's going to happen almost overnight. It's a one thing that Andrew Yang was bringing up a lot, on his campaign. Um, I don't think that gets enough attention because we're not prepared for this at all. And it's gonna happen. This is absolutely inevitable. Like truck drivers, cashiers, there's so many jobs are just gonna be completely gone. They're not gonna be there anymore. And like, what are these people gonna do? Like, you're gonna have, like, obviously right now, like everybody's going out of jobs because of this coronavirus, but like 10 years from now, this could happen all over again, and because of automation. Even Andrew Yank said he was at a as an entrepreneur, and he was at a convention and with a bunch of CEOs, and he asked the question, how many of you are thinking about switching over to automation as soon as you can? And like pretty much 90% of them raised their hands. And see, the CEOs don't give jack shits about the blue collar worker. That's a proven fact. If they could
mm.
replace you with a robot, they're going to replace you with a fucking robot. And that's coming. That's going to happen.
There lies a good and bad impact on technology with society because, yes, of course, you're taking jobs away from hardworking people. Terrible, terrible, terrible thing to do. However, thinking of it as an employer standpoint or as a person that wants to have a very good business or a lucrative business, what's going to work harder? A robot that never sleeps or somebody that kind of falls out after 8 hours?
Mm,
Yeah.
First of all, you're taking personal problems out of the equation because you're controlling the robot. They don't have personal problems. They don't have emotion, right?
Mhm.
Taking the precision, implementing it into something that you can control that precision, right? So again, this is a good and bad impact that technology will have in the near future if it hasn't started already. And I know certain jobs it has kind of taken over. I
Mm,
mean, think of your hobby shops, for example. Here's an example. Think of your hobby shops. Do you really go into hobby shops that much anymore like people used to? Or is it easier for you to go on Amazon or hobby.com, or even, I don't know if that's a website, but you get my point. It's so much easier for you
probably.
to search that and get that online. You don't need to physically walk into a hobby shop. And back in the day, you used to go in a comic book store or hobby shop and you'd sit there and hang out. Sit there and play
Yeah.
games. You sit there and read a comic book. You sit there and bullshit with the fellers. And nowadays, it's just not the same, from what I
Mm,
know. I mean, I don't see many of them around anymore. There's
No,
just
not
so
so
many
much.
other kind of stores and businesses that are kind of affecting. You can even think of jewelry stores, car dealerships. I mean, you don't really go to. I mean, yes, there's a lot of people that do go to jewelry stores. There's a lot of people that do go to car lots. I'm not saying that they don't at all. They have and they will continue to take a very big hit on business simply from the fact that people are not going to just be walking in the door no more. They're going to be just buying online. It's just
Well,
more
it's even worse
convenient
than
and just it's that simple.
mm,
well, automation's even worse than that because it's going to be the point where there's going to be no need for people at all. Like right now, yeah, you got to sit there and buy online. Well, somebody's got to put that in a box. Somebody's got to tape that. Somebody's got to put it in the truck. Somebody's got to drive that truck. Somebody's got to get out of that truck and put it onto your curb. We're not going to have any of that anymore. All that's going to be gone. There ain't going to be nobody needed to put it in the box. There's going to be an arm there that puts it in the box. The truck's going to be driving itself. Or the thing is going to come out and put it on your doorstep for you. Like so many, that's what automation's going to do. It's going to take away all those jobs. The only
Mhm.
thing that's really going to be left at the end of the day is basically just like entertainment.
uh, and this is actually something I would like to uh, throw out there in regards to that. Like, um, I somewhat disagree with the whole idea that automation will be like, don't get me wrong, there are jobs that are going to be lost. Like there are jobs that are have already been lost due to or automation. But I'd like to cite what happened when it came to the ATM. Basically what ended up happening is that instead of having to go to the bank teller in order to handle, just basic cash transactions, taking money out of your account, whatever, you could just go to the ATM for that. Now, what that ended up doing is it ended up freeing up the tellers to do like sales or account work or, other duties that the bank needed to do. And I think that's going to be much the case when it comes to automation on a broader scale, is that we're still going to need uh, a human support network for that until, our AI overlords take over and we're all jacked into the matrix. Um,
I would
but
agree, John. I do agree with what you're saying, and
mhm,
yes, there will always be some sort of jobs for human beings in any field of choice. But the point is I'll use the bank teller as an example. Yes, some of those tellers still had a job because they moved them to sales, they moved them to finance advisors, or they moved them to some sort of department. But ATMs come out, I would assume that a lot of tellers have lost that position because they either didn't have the expertise to do those other things, or they simply just didn't need that much of a volume of people to do those things.
Hmm.
That's gonna be a snowball effect for many
right.
industries. Yes, you are gonna have still need human involvement in any business you create, of course. But it's going to literally take a sledgehammer to the amount of people you're going to need, because you have robots like you have an arm that puts the product in the box, you have another arm that tapes it, you have another arm that loads it on the truck, whatever the case may be. There is going to come a point where you're going to be able to minimize the amount of human experience or human necessity that you need for that job, and that's the big problem, because that's a bad effect. I mean, you can
Yeah.
look at it as a good effect, as in, yes, you're
Mhm.
making the job a lot more easier for the business owner because you don't have to deal with the bullshit drama. You don't have to deal with the paperwork. You don't have to deal with taxes. You don't have to deal with this, that, and the other, because now you have a robot that you just walk in the door and push a button, it turns on and does its job. I mean, so there's
Uh,
good and bad effects to that, and it's just the way it is.
I'm not saying
I
that
want
there's
to.
not gonna. Hey, hold on. I'm not saying that there's not gonna be any turbulence when it comes to automation really kind of taking over, but I'm saying there are going to be opportunities and jobs that pop up around, being the support network for that, right up until the point, everything is handled by machines and we're all free to, pursue our desires, and we either hit utopia or dystopia.
Hmm. Well, something like this has happened before. Okay, and then it happened in like all three of the hometowns, basically. Well, the biggest city in our state that we're from, in Detroit. One point in time, Detroit was a large, prosperous city. It was one of the richest cities in the entire country. The reason why is because of the automotive industry. I'm supposed to be fucking podcasting. I can't get the hang of this shit. Yeah, ridiculous. What automotive industry? The reason why it was so prosperous, and overnight it basically went from being rich, prosperous city to being one of the worst ghettos in the entire country, and it is still to this day, and it hasn't changed for years, and it doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon. And the reason why that happened is because automation. It happened, well, at one point in time, we used to pay people to put our cars together and make them the Detroit steel. That's where they came from. We used to pay people to put our cars together. Until one day the CEOs found out that they could go over to China, have robots put this shit together and come back, and then it'd be cheaper, and they could sell the car cheaper, and they could make more profit. What ended up
Uh,
happening? That's what they did. And what ended up happening in the process? People lost their jobs, and then poverty happened, and it still has not recovered to this day.
I'm just gonna throw that out, or correct you real quick. They didn't get built by robots over in China. They got built by people who would take a lot less of a wage in comparison to over here in America. It wasn't technology that, made that happen. It was literally someone else said, "We'll do the job for a lot cheaper." And that's a whole other fucking podcast. That's a whole other fucking argument. But I just had to correct you there.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain there's a lot of automation involved in that too, though, because
Mm,
there's a lot of robots putting together the cars that the human beings don't do anymore. I mean, you can go on YouTube and watch the videos. Like, I'm pretty sure automation was a huge part of it as well. But hey, I could be wrong.
not
I'll
back
look.
then. Like
What's
if
up?
not back then. Like if you made that argument today, you would have a much better platform to stand on. But when that or when that whole transition really started, and when China opened up as basically a cheap labor market, that's when everything started really going downhill. It has less to do with technology and more to do
Oh.
with, here we go, another podcast topic, but
That's
greedy
Basically,
capitalists.
that's still the
basically,
case, by the way.
the main point still stands. But basically, CEOs trying to save money,
Yeah.
and it led to poverty, which has yet to recover. And the same thing's going to happen with automation, regardless.
Mm.
There is a lot of these words that I am speaking. People are probably just sitting there listening, like, Andrew, what do you know? You say you're a carpenter many times. You're right. I am not an electrician. I'm not a artificial intelligence expert whatsoever. One of the podcasts that I do listen to, and I want to get, I would highly recommend them, is artificial intelligence podcast with Lex Fridman. He's got a lot. He's a MIT graduate. He's in the field every single day. He's probably one of the most intelligent people that you could listen to on a podcast. Like, he's at half the time he's talking, I don't even understand what the hell he's saying. Like, that's how smart the guy is. I would definitely, if this kind of thing interests you and you want to learn more about it, I would look up that podcast, because he's got plenty of episodes where he goes really in depth about how this could be trouble for us, and the reason why he loves Andrew Yang so much. So I just want to let people know, like, this is not just all my words. I'm not just blowing smoke out of my ass, kind of thing. Even though I do that sometimes, it's an impressive trick. Maybe I'll show you guys one day.
You need to stop
At least
recommending.
30% of the time.
You need
Yeah,
to
it
stop
cannot.
recommending other podcasters. You're driving traffic away from us.
Oh man, I gotta give shout outs to good podcasts. I don't know.
Hey, respect for, or in industry respect, I guess.
Hey, if you're going to listen to his podcast, remember who sent you.
Mm,
Come
tell your
back to us.
friends.
Hey, that guy does not have the sense of humor that we have. So, like, you can't get the laughs. Like, you can't get the laughs off of Lex Fridman that you can get over here at JNA.
Definitely. much drier podcast, I think. Let's face it. You're always gonna
Oh
get.
yeah, that's true. That is fucking 100%. That guy is like the most monotone motherfucker you will ever hear talk in your entire life. I don't think I heard that dude his voice leave a certain decibel. Like he's like literally talks like this all the time, every day. I don't care if I'm angry. This is me being angry. This is me being happy. This is probably me during sex too.
But
So
back on topic, guys. Back on topic,
Mhm.
everybody. I do have a quick question to pose to you guys. What do
Alrighty.
you think? And this is probably a big one for John because I know he gets into a lot of artificial intelligence. What are the positive and what maybe are some of the negative effects that artificial intelligence is going to have on humans in general?
Uh, Definitely. Okay. Reductions in the labor force. I do think that AI is really going to contribute to humans getting dumber. In general, it's already happening now, and
is that
like,
possible?
oh God, like it is actually happening now. IQ, granted, that's kind of a shifty metric for measuring intelligence, has honestly been on a steady decline ever since, technology really kind of ramped up. Um, but I guess the one negative is that's it. We're going to potentially lose some meaning when it comes to the human existence because life is struggle. In my honest opinion, uh, we define or humanity defines itself by its struggles. But by the same token, I guess a positive effect of it could be that, we now have more time or more availability in order to, just to, I guess have an explosion of culture. Like if we freed ourselves up from, the daily grind and, labor and stuff like that, there's a good chance that, we'll see more artists, we'll see more musicians, more writers. So I guess TLDR, possible negative result, we lose, part of our humanity. Possible positive result, uh, we grow so much more in mentally or culturally from it.
I
I
like
am
that
gonna
answer. I do.
I'm gonna answer Nick's question, but human intelligence is definitely going to be a podcast episode we have because there's a lot that you just said there that other stuff that I'd like to bring up, but I diverse. To answer your question, Nick, I think I don't really know, man, and I don't think anybody really does. People like to sit here and like think that they have some kind of idea of what the future is going to be like. But dude, if I went back to the November of last year and told you that all within 6 months that Kobe Bryant will die, World War III will almost happen, a disease that's barely killing 2% of the people that is conflicting is it's shut down the entire planet and told you all this stuff is going to happen, you're probably going to smack me in the face. Like you're not going to believe a single word that I say, man. I'm like what I could hope that AI would bring towards us is I hope it would bring us to a next stage of an enlightenment. I hope that it. I hope it cures ignorance. I hope that's what I hope in like Elon Musk's Neuralink does, man. I hope it cures I just hope it cures ignorance. I hope it cures things like racism. I hope it cures things like hatred, and I hope it cures things like that, so kids don't have to grow up being in a fucked up world anymore. I really hope that I'm just being optimistic, I suppose. I mean, I know every single week it seems like it's about to be like a Mayan doomsday calendar and shit. So can't get that off of Lex Friedman. Ha.
Mhm.
But that's just my honest opinion, man. I don't want to say what I think it's going to bring. I'm just saying that I'm just optimistic and I hope it brings good things and I hope it's not a fucking Black Mirror episode.
Yeah.
That's what I basically hope. I I just hope that it leads to good things, man. That's it.
Hmm.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm into that.
all right. Do you guys have anything else that you guys wanted to tackle? I mean,
I do have one more.
All right.
Okay.
I do have one more in regards to, because we didn't really touch base on this too much. I mean, we kind of did a little bit, I guess, but I'd like to kind of expand just a little bit more on it. Technology, does it have a good or bad effect on communication? Now, when it comes to social media, it's terrible. Everybody understands that it's terrible because you got trolls out there that anytime you say your opinion on something, they're slapping you back down, calling you an idiot or calling you some sort of name.
Mm.
But there is some sort of good that comes from communication when it comes to technology itself, because kind of not only expands your mind more, you're reading more online, it's easier for you to read different things and learn different things when it comes to just knowledge in general, whether it be history, science, medical field, or whatever. So it's easier for you to get yourself, equipped with knowledge in order to have that kind of discussion with somebody. So there are pros and cons about that. I do want to hear your guys' thoughts. Do you think that technology has a worse effect when it comes to communication, or do you think that it has a more of a positive effect when it comes to communication?
So you're basically asking us, are the pros outweighing the cons?
Essentially, yes.
Okay. Um, I don't think I'm qualified enough to even say yes or no. I mean, you could give me one story where it's affected a child negatively, and it'd be the saddest story you ever hear, or they could reverse the way around. And it's about like I've heard stories where poor 10-year-old children are committing suicide because they're getting bullied on the internet. Like I tell you that story, and you try to tell me that it's having a positive effect. Like you just like you're a monster. You lack empathy. You know what I mean? At the same time, the technology has saved kids from cancer, and now they're alive today because of that. And again, yet if I tell you that, and you tell me that it doesn't have it's only negative effect, you lack empathy. You're a monster. Like it's just like I said it early in the podcast, man. I just think technology is just like every single thing else. It's a tool that human beings use, and it's what separates us from animals. Is we use tools. We use tools good ways, we can use tools bad ways. I don't think the technology itself is good or bad. I think the people are good and bad.
Well, he was asking about the effect, but
Well, then I misheard him, and you got that anyways.
okay, I guess to take a stance on that, um, I do think technology in terms of communication has resulted in a net positive because uh, it's helped, bring the world a little bit closer together, made the world a little bit smaller. And I know some people will say, "Oh, isn't that a bad thing?" But I honestly think not. Like we are, because of the internet, because of technology, we are so much more aware, I think, of things outside just our own little sphere. Like you, if you grew up in a small town, you knew almost no life outside of that small town unless you yourself actually ventured out from it.
Mm.
But at the same token, now you have the internet. You can talk to people from all across the country, all across the world. You can learn things from, other countries. You can, like, one of my favorite things to do is just look up, recipes from foreign countries, like, Indian food or Arabic food or Japanese food, and try it out. Uh, and that brings me a lot of joy, and that wouldn't be possible with if communication hadn't progressed to the point that it is. So yeah, like Andrew said, there are a lot of negatives, and there has been some bad stuff that happened because as a tool humanity has misused technology in regards to communication. uh, but I think I think the pros outweigh the cons in this.
Okay,
Okay.
I respect that. Not
Sure.
really, but I'm just gonna say that I do.
Jesus.
I'm playing, dude. I'm playing. I'm playing.
Here we're talking about bullying, and now you're bullying me over the internet.
I am
I
not.
will
Dude.
throw this out there.
You're gonna sick
I
that
will throw
fucking
this out.
cancer culture on me, John, if you say some shit like that.
I will throw this out there. Technology does give people the ability to have more of a stage fright, or more of a kind of like a, like interaction, like confrontation wise, like face to face. So it does give those people the ability to kind of be able to state their opinion the way they want to state it without having those feelings or anxiety, or just kind of just reluctancy, if you will, when it comes to communication in general. So there is a positive note there, and you can also say that there's negative sides there, because then you got the telephone tough guy, I like to call him, somebody that has it's a keyboard warrior. I mean, he's talking some mad shit on a fucking on Facebook like he's a hard ass. Next thing you know, you look at his profile and he's like 110 pounds soaking wet. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You know what I mean? What the hell are you doing? So there is good things about that. I do believe that communication, maybe not on the social media platforms in general, is a good thing, but I think it gives people that have that anxiety or stage fright or even just somewhat of confrontation being with human interaction. I do think it gives them the ability to be able to speak the words they want to speak in the way they want to speak it without having that sense of feeling. So I do think the pros outweigh the cons. I do think it does.
Yeah, well, technology also gives me the privilege of being able to do a podcast with my brothers and I look forward to this every week, man. I fucking love it. So I can't bitch too
Absolutely.
much about technology. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yep. And with that, we're gonna go ahead and call a close on this episode of the JNA podcast. I hope everybody, you've enjoyed it. Hope it's opened your mind up a little bit and got you thinking. We really talked about, hey, stop, think. But we all hope you're staying safe out there, especially as the